thought it'd be nice to have a chat just to say thank you for the great work that you did, but also to learn a little bit about the world of book covers. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me along. It's nice to put a face to the name and to meet you and to talk directly to our authors about covers.
I didn't know that there were people who did book covers for a living, and
right.
which is kind of what you do, right? So can you tell us about yourself and tell us a little bit about Head Design?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I didn't know there was a sole book cover design job going until I saw the advertisement that I applied to join the agency. A bit of background: I work with 2 other colleagues, and we have a small agency called Head Design, based in East London, and yes, we work across a wide variety of publishers on a wide variety of genres. We all have different sort of specialisms within. And yes, it was a fortuitous job ad that I saw that this really sparked it off for me. I was working as a graphic designer before, in a sort of advertising marketing context, but with a real interest in reading and books and also illustration. So when I saw the job ad, it felt like a real culmination of those interests, and so I applied and got the job. Must be about 15 years ago now.
15 years, pretty much exclusively working on book covers.
Yeah, it's lovely work.
Yeah,
I still have to pinch myself.
And the question I was, I think you kind of answered it, but so you are quite a bookish person, I guess. You are.
Yes.
I mean, it would be a shame, wouldn't it, for such a fantastic job to fall to somebody who wasn't particularly interested in books.
I just don't know how you could complete it if you didn't. It's a privilege to be able to read words and turn them into a visual. And me and my colleagues equally, we all have a real interest in the books. We talk about them a lot. We talk about other books, covers we wish we'd designed.
What's a typical brief like? How does a project land on your desk? What happens?
Commonly, editorial team get in touch with us with a one-page document that has a brief blurb about what the book is about and the position they want to sort of market it in. So titles that will sort of sit beside that already exist in the marketplace, stuff to give us a sort of idea of creatively where it might sit. It's a case of batting ideas back and forth. We'll come up with a range of sketches, shall we say, to present to the editorial team, and usually they'll take them away and present within their group and come to some sort of consensus, and it goes back and forth for a while. Eventually, hopefully, we refine into one visual, which then gets presented to the author at that stage. With really long lead times, generally, up to a year before the book's publishing date.
I think Odd Bird was quite a lot shorter lead time than that. I don't know when, because we probably finalised the title in February. So
that's right. Yeah, we had a change of title, didn't we, along the process?
We did. Probably the first solid title I had was The Birdman of Acton.
Okay, yeah.
Which wasn't right because it would, really very much niche it for Acton. And then we sort of had a holding position, which was the mating behaviour of birds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my agent quite liked it, and the publisher quite liked it, and I didn't like it, and more importantly, my girlfriend didn't like it. And so I sat down with Pete, and he said, "Okay, well, we quite like it, but you've got a week." Because we need to get moving on the cover, and we've got all these things that we need to do. And so I thought, okay, and I think I probably came up with another 25 titles
Oh, wow.
in that week. Not all good. Not all good. And on the last morning, I came up with another half dozen, and I think Odd Bird was at the top. And at this point, I was kind of thinking, I was trying to get myself used to the idea of living with the mating behavior of birds. And actually, he came back about half an hour later and he said, I think Odd Bird could work.
Yeah.
And I'm just so relieved that's what we did. I think it speaks to the quirkiness and the tone of the book much more effectively.
Yeah.
So,
I'm retrospectively pleased it changed the Odd Bird as well, because as a designer, you immediately clock the title and the length of the words and the depth of the words. So you sort of start to piece it all together. And of course, with that title, there's a lot of long words and then a lot of short words, and it's a long title, so you sort of have to stack it up, and it's kind of hard to make a cohesive design around it sometimes.
All of the design elements kind of get pushed to the periphery, or when you've got a great big word block like
exactly
that, presumably, having never designed anything.
Did you have any idea in your mind visually how it would look or how it placed before they got involved?
Absolutely no idea. You know, what I was really hoping was that something would come back that I liked the look of.
Okay. That'd be a start.
Yeah. So my editor sent over, she said, look, we really need to get started on the cover design. We're going to engage head design. And they sent me kind of 2 pages, and they said, I think, let me try and remember, I think she said, we believe that because of the nature and the tone of this book, that something with quite large type with illustrative elements around it, bright colors is what this book needs to say what it is, and to stop readers that is what it needs. And then very usefully they said, look, so just to make that more tangible, here are some covers which are similar. There were a couple of Nick Spalding, and there were a couple of Ruth Jones, and I think Samantha Irby possibly, and some of your and a selection of the covers that you have developed as an agency. And they said, what did I think? And I said, I can see that. I can see that working.
Yeah.
That's kind of approach. And then they said to me, what are the elements that you think should be included in the cover? What are your views? And I said, I don't think it should be. I think it should feature birds, but I don't think it should feature just birds, because that puts people off. So it should probably feature Simon and Kim. Yeah. And I think it should probably feature a pair of binoculars in some way, because that's kind of an iconic element and a kind of differentiating element which speaks to bird watching.
Yeah.
And then I think that was it, really. That was my involvement. I wrote a paragraph, and then we were still in the mating behavior of birds kind of territory at that point.
So I took this one on from the beginning, which was really pleasant for me. It has, I think I mentioned to you, it has all the elements I really like, that sort of poster look, the bright colours they wanted, the quirk and the hand-drawn approach. Yeah. So that one was mine. Well, I tend to work in across 4 or 5 visuals, and quite often at that early stage I try to nut out the colours as well, and green's a favourite of mine. I try and get a green visual in whenever I can. Really? And they rarely go through, interestingly enough.
Really?
But and so I tried out a range of schemes, and it was important to me that I had like a really chromatic main colour, so I could reverse out as well to print white on it, on the cover, as well as go darker. So it sort of had to have a lot of holding value. And the binoculars did feature in those first rounds, didn't they?
Yeah, the binoculars did feature, and the pied flycatcher was more predominant than others.
Mm-hmm. I was conscious of the title when it changed to Odd Bird, that we could do quite a massive thing with it. So at that point, I came completely off the computer again. A lot of our time is spent on screen, messing around with software and making alterations, but I quite like going back to pen and ink and working on paper again. Mm-hmm. So I actually framed out that format and worked by pen to work out how to maximize the format, really. Huh? So yeah, all hand drawn. So yes.
I didn't appreciate that. I just assumed that was some font that you select, which is intended to look like it's
Well, you can get them, but once you start looking at those fonts, you start to see the patterns repeating, and you're like, oh, okay. And because we had 3 big D's on that cover, if I had used a font that all looked very samey after a point, so I did draw that one by hand, and it's more pleasant to me, especially working in the digital realm so much, to come off for a bit. And the figures, that was an important part, because there's such strong characters in the book. I chose the silhouettes because I don't know, with books I find if you start putting faces on things, you start contributing too much to the narrative, and it gets a whole lot more complicated. So silhouettes and gestures were important for these ones. I felt that style. And you have your main character who's pursuing his love interest but looking the other way with his binoculars. But he's very rigid, very straight in comparison to Kim, who's a little bit more fluid and relaxed. And then, of course, the addition of the pied flycatchers in a sort of mating dance up there and the top, just to bring all those elements together. And they were quite nice to have them repeated as a little motif. But yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing it immediately says to me is quirky, and it's funny.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, so Kim is kind of coquettish, and she knows that she's attractive, but she's sort of turned away from Simon.
Yeah.
And she's turned away from Simon. Simon has turned away from her for a completely different reason.
Yes.
Which represents, I think, his obsession with birds, but also his social awkwardness as well. Uh-huh. And then the 2 birds, I think, I think the 2 birds are genius because, things aren't going smoothly for them, are they? So, so maybe it is courtship, but there is some resistance within that courtship as well. And so that's a nice visual metaphor for what is going on, or what will be going on between Simon and Kim. So yeah, all of the elements work beautifully, but it's also simple. It's not trying to communicate too much, which is the danger, isn't it?
Yeah. I like the economy of communicating something very simply. To me, that's the aim.
It's just that happy feeling where you see something, you go, yes, that's it. That does it. That's good. I can relax now because the cover works.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, it was immediate. My instinct told me to go green because of the natural, the natural world. But my emotional reaction was to go for the yellow one, or the slightly orangey yellow one, just because it was vivid and I thought it would have kind of stopping power.
Yeah, that was interesting. You make that head-heart decision when you saw the 2 colours You thought rationally it should be green, but yellow is speaking to me, and I don't know.
You know, you've got no idea how it's going to work when it gets out there.
Yes.
And what's been great is that, you know, people do really like it. So it works for everyone. And how often can that how often can you say that happens?
Not all the time. It's lovely to hear that it has for you. So yeah. I'm chuffed for you. And it's really nice to hear feedback from other people that are interacting with it. To be part of the conversation and a bit of the hype of the book is really nice for us. It's lovely to see it out in the wild and getting a bit of feedback and that coming back to us. It's really lovely.
Yeah. Stepping back from Odd Bird, which, you know, hurts me a lot. Can I ask you some kind of desert island books kind of questions? Yeah. So what's the one book that kind of landed on your desk and that you were happiest to get to, or proudest or most delighted to work on? And you're not allowed to say Odd Bird.
One was a reissue of a book called Woman on the Edge of Time by Marge Piercy. It's like a science fiction title from the 70s originally. And there was a bit of an appetite for it because, of course, the new Margaret Atwood was coming out. And so I got to recover that in a really graphic style, again, the sort of style that I like to work on. That was a really pleasing job from start to finish, actually, and it really helped that I loved the book as well. So it's always nice when you get a brief like that. It's like, yes.
What is the book or books that you wish you had designed the cover of?
But the first book that I remember finding really interesting and a completely new approach was designs by a guy called Gray 318. And it was a cover of Jonathan Safran Foer's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. Again, it was a graphic of a red hand print on a white cover, and all the type was made to fit within the handprint and all hand drawn. And I just remember looking at it in the shop and thinking, wow, that's an entirely new possibility for book covers. And it was the first cover I think I really saw that clicked me onto book design. Must have got it at quite a formative age. So yes, that's one of the ones that stayed with me. I immediately bought the book, of course, when I saw it too. So and the second one, this one gets cited a lot, but it's the ultimate like sort of design for a copy of George Orwell's 1984. It was a reissue, of which there have been plenty, but this was a one done in the Penguin house style, so it had the orange bands, so obviously Penguin. But the title and author are blanked out, are censored. So referencing the book, you can't actually tell from the digital visual what the title is, but if you see a physical copy, you can sort of tilt it and see the underprinted 1984 George Orwell, and that it's been redacted on the cover. But it's just such a clever concept and execution. I think it's a real statement of confidence, isn't it? That. Absolutely, yes. Very audacious. But it's just one idea where you think that's a great idea, and I'm so pleased they went ahead and produced it. But I found one more that I really liked. Funnily enough, it uses that hand icon again, so I think something about the hand speaks to me. Going back to what we were talking about with gestural stuff. Yeah, there's so much that can be communicated in a sort of body part, really. But it's a reissue of a Kurt Vonnegut book, Cat's Cradle, and I've just loved all the reissues of Kurt Vonnegut books, actually. Every time they come out with a new one, I'm just amazed. But it's a really striking visual, and it'd just be a dream brief for me to work on his covers. I just love his text, so yeah.
Well, that's a nice coincidence. I'm not sure that he's my favourite author, but he is definitely up there.
Yeah, Absolutely.
It just doesn't write like a novelist. I like those covers because they always make the reader do a little bit of work.
Yes.
They're like solving a puzzle. Like there's the one with the piggy bank and the pearls, and I was trying to think, and it's, hang on a minute, it's for Mr. Rosewater. It's pearls before swine.
Yeah.
So, and you know, Timequake and the alarm clocks, and they've been created obviously in such a way that there's a cover series.
Mm-hmm. There's a look.
They're very fresh looking, aren't they?
Yes.
Very simple and bright and fresh looking. I think they're great too.
Yeah, the text just hasn't dated either, has it? It's got amazing.
I did go along my shelves and have a look at the covers that I most admire.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put my very favourite up first, and I hope you won't be offended if you didn't design it.
I'm very interested to see it.
There it is. Can you see?
Ah, yes. Yeah, that one's very clever, isn't it?
Look, oh, it's so clever.
Yeah.
Look,
it goes back to what I was saying about that economy of communication. It's pretty clever, that one, isn't it?
Oh, it just says. I mean, you can't walk past that cover, I don't think, without being intrigued, can you?
Yeah, and look how small they've been able to keep the title.
Yeah.
It's incredibly bold and brave, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is possibly my favourite. But I won't stop there. He talks about his life with, Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart.
Oh, that is smart.
It's very funny and very sad.
Yeah.
But, it's using those icons and the spotlight to great effect. And again, it tells you immediately that this is going to be a book that makes you laugh as well. And finally, this one, which is, I thought I should choose a book which isn't funny. And this is a Lullaby, a novel that I loved. And I like the fact that we can't see her face.
Yeah.
We can't see the premise of the novel is about a nanny who kills the children.
Yeah, I've read that one.
Yeah, you've read it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we can't see her face because I think that makes her more scary.
Yes.
I think
it makes her like inscrutable, which is a big part of the novel, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like the sort of slightly prim, tidy, virtuous kind of clothing that she is. And I think all of those things sort of make it more sinister and more compelling and make me want to open it. So that's another.
Absolutely. I'm with you there because I actually picked up that book but on the strength of the cover, and I was like, and as soon as I read the blurb to confirm it, I was like, I have to read this now.
Yeah.
But yeah, very haunting, isn't it?
It is. It's haunting. It's just a little book, but it's a beauty. So there we go. Here I am selling other people's books like an idiot.
I love it. Thank you for sharing them.
And as I said at the beginning, very grateful for your time today, but also for the great work that you did on the cover. So thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you, Lee. Thanks for making the time. It's lovely to speak to you.